morning, Stink.
Well, good morning, fellas. How are you? Big Broncos victory, and you're 100% right, Stoke. Hey, you know what? It was ugly for a while, for quite some time. But the bottom line, it's not always how you start, it's how you finish, and they finished well, and I'm excited about the Broncos' victory.
All right, let's start with what everybody's talking about, the Jonathan Taylor dropping the football. First of all, you cover the NFL every single week. You talk to players, you see games. Can you give us an explanation? What is this thing about just dropping the football as you approach the end zone, or as soon as you get into the end zone? Why is this a thing?
Mike, I have played football since I was in the 7th grade, 8th grade, my 6 years of high school, 7 years of college, 12 years professionally. They call me a doctor.
This is why you're the same age as George Carl.
Right. I have never, ever come close to sniffing a touchdown at any level. There was no question from the time I was a pudgy little 12-year-old that I was going to have my fingers in the dirt. And I cannot understand why receivers and running back and people who touch the football decide to let it go right before they go over the goal line. Stoke, it just, I'm befuddled by the whole thing.
Yeah, I can't really give you an explanation of why, because I never did it, but I always kept my footballs too. So maybe that's the thing. Hey, guess what? Don't you want to keep your football? Give it to someone in the stands.
You kept all your footballs?
I did. It wasn't that many, but yeah, I kept all my touchdowns.
Really?
Yeah.
So did they charge you for the ball back in the day?
No.
Did they make you pay for it? No.
I don't think so. But no, I don't think they did. But
that's kind of cool, man.
Yeah, but I think, hey, let's give the ball to the fan, and if you do that, right, guess what? You're not going to drop it. So it's very odd why we're seeing it happen so much. It really is. And obviously that was a huge turning point in that football game.
So, Stokes says Broncos don't win that game if Taylor doesn't give them that gift. Do you agree?
No, I don't know. Yeah, at that point they were to go up
20-7.
That would have been a 20-7 ball game, right?
Early third quarter.
And defensively, the Colts were playing. Gus Bradley had the defense coordinator. Gus Bradley had them playing really well, really solid. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I don't know what would have happened, but it would have certainly made it a heck of a lot harder. And they were already pressing offensively, right? Bo Nix had already thrown a bunch of interceptions, and they weren't playing well at all. And you go down 20-7, it makes you press that much more as an offensive player, as an offensive team. Yeah, I'd probably agree with Stoke that was a turning point in that game that at least kept them from having to press, being down one score, being down at that point 13-7. It's probably reasonable. Stoke is right.
Yeah, and then you look at the trickle-down effect for the Colts also and how they have to approach the rest of the game. Instead of having a 2-touchdown or 2-score lead, now all of a sudden you don't. And it's a 1-possession game. And so I think the trickle-down effect there also for them is, do they try that trick play? What does the rest of the game look like from their point of view offensively, how they're calling the game? Because obviously Anthony Richardson struggled throwing the football. But if you got a 2-score lead, now maybe you stick with the run a little bit more. Maybe you can be a little bit more patient. When you have the ball offensively, maybe you don't call that trick play. So I think you look at it both sides and what it does for your football team and the other team and the ramifications there. I just don't. I think the Colts probably won it.
Hey, Stink, how many touchdowns do you think Stoke had, by the way, where he kept all his balls?
I'm going to say Stoke over the course of 15 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he has to have, on average, probably at least one a season, maybe, let's call it 22.
Wow. Showing no respect to my guy, Stoke.
22? What?
39. 39.
39.
22.
39. 39. Let's bring in a guy who had
Wow.
60 touchdowns rushing and had 5 touchdowns receiving, 65 touchdowns, and I doubt he ever dropped the ball before he got to the goal line. I am speaking, of course, of our Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, who joins us as he does each and every Monday, presented by Colorado Credit Union. Good morning, TD. Okay, we're all trying to find an explanation as to why Jonathan Taylor did what he did. Can you give us one?
I honestly, man, I really can't. But I'm glad he did. But you know, it's one of the biggest things that drives me crazy about backs or whoever scores a touchdown, man. I don't understand why you would want to drop the ball near the goal line and just not making sure you cross it before you drop it. I don't recall, and maybe I have to go back and look at all my touchdowns, but I don't recall ever dropping the ball near the goal line like that. And I just don't have an explanation for it. I assume it's the excitement of scoring a touchdown and then, you know, just kind of assuming you're in there, and, you know, it's kind of the low-key spike instead of, you know, spiking the ball, kind of that, you know, I've scored and you know, here you go. But Mike, I don't have answers for you, man. It drives me nuts, man, when I see that. And that's the coach of me when I'm, you know, I've always just, you know, either been taught that or I'm teaching. Just, you know, make sure you're in the end zone before you drop the ball or give it to the ref. But yeah, that was. I like Jonathan Taylor, man. I appreciate it, man, because we certainly needed that.
Hey, like Stoke kept all his footballs that he scored with. TD, did you keep all 60 of your touchdowns you scored with, or is that just you've just scored too many? It got old hat.
No, the only person that I did not keep my ball. I have no idea where they are, Stink.
Yeah, the only person I know that kept all his is Stoke. And I just found that out. Seems kind of weird.
You kept all your touchdowns, man?
I did.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they were free.
Really?
I mean, I didn't get 60 of them like, you know, but they're free. Why not keep my football?
But what are you doing with them? Where are they? What are you doing with them?
Not much. They're in the basement. Yeah,
Okay.
just collecting dust, so not much. But at the time, It
Okay.
seemed like it was pretty cool.
The only ball that I kept was my first touchdown, and I think I kept the 2,000-yard ball. That was it. Other than that, I don't know where those balls are. But no, Mike, I don't know, man. It's that's just one of the frustrating things you watch. But you know, by the way, watching that run, man, it made me start looking at our offense and lack of run game, which is terrible right now. I don't know how you fix it. But to have an explosive play like that, we haven't seen that. Like that's kind of what you're looking for. Is you want somebody to be able to get that nice 40-yard run, and we just don't have that. It's been underwhelming. It's been a bunch of guys who just cannot seem to find a hole, can't seem to create anything. Very disappointing. I was watching the game with my son, and he's like, "Man, Denver needs to draft Gentry in the first round next year." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I think that might be a good call."
Yeah, I mean,
certainly need more firepower in that backfield there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at the running back situation. I ask you questions about it every week, and then Jaleel got a little dinged up and missed some time. So I think they're going to have to, whether it be free agency or the draft, make it a priority. Where are you at, though, TD, with this football team? They're a winner for the first time since 2016. Where are you at with them moving forward? We're looking at the playoffs and the Chargers game coming up here on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that, like you said, man, you're 9-5 now. You're all but, a lock to make the playoffs. Got to maybe win a game or two. Winning record since 2016. So all good things. Obviously, this team is not playing great, and we saw that yesterday. Struggled in the first half. Really struggled the entire game. You know, Bo didn't have a great game. Actually didn't look good at all. But the key is that they found a way to win, and that really does. I mean, it holds a lot of weight. You just find a way to win. It's not going to be perfect. I don't think we've ever when I played with Denver, never played a perfect game. And I think finding different ways to win is always a great, attribute to have for a team, because you're going to play a million different games, and they're not all going to be pretty. But they knew that playing a game against Indy, that at some point they were going to make mistakes, and I think they were kind of banking on that. And Indy did. They made the mistakes. They beat themselves, and Denver took advantage of that. So, clean things up. Definitely, like I said, man, the run game is terrible. They got to get better there. Got to get better in a lot of different spots. But in the meantime, you're consistently winning, and that's, to me, is the key for a really good team.
What did it do for you, TD, when we would win ugly? When you were in a game where we just won ugly, even though it wasn't, what we wanted? What did it do for you psychology-wise as a player?
I think for me, those are the ones that I think that we had the biggest growth, because you're going to find yourself more in those situations than in the ones where you're winning by two scores or trying to blow a team out. You're not going to find yourself in that situation often. So anytime we got into those tight games and we were able to win those were the ones that I believe that I took the most from. And you can draw back on those games when you're in the tight ones. You can say, hey, we've been here before. We know what this feels like. We know we're not playing great, but we feel confident we'll make a play. And I just think that's just it's key. It's key to any great team. Look at the Chiefs, man. They have perfected that feeling of, it doesn't matter how it looks. We'll find a way to win, and they're doing that. And I think it's invaluable to have those lessons and the experience of playing in tight games, and this will serve them. But if they don't get better on the ground, I just don't know how far this team can go once they make it into the playoffs. They've got to be more. You can't just be one-dimensional right now. Your defense is helping out. Nick Bonitto's playing out of his mind, and the defense is making some plays there. Special teams, Marvin Mims is doing a great job. But now everybody's got to raise the game, man. I think these tight games will serve them later, but they still need to improve in a lot of areas.
Visiting with Terrell Davis. TD, speaking of Nick Bonitto, right now TJ Watt has the best odds to win the Defensive Player of the Year award, but then Patrick Surtain is number 2 and Nick Bonitto is number 3. If you had to choose between PS2 and Bonitto as the Defensive Player of the Year, who would you go with and why?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Maybe slightly Nick. Maybe because the fact that, what he's 11 sacks this year. And I think just his, and I don't want to say, because I don't want to slight anything that PS2 has done, but I just think his impact on his defense has been just slightly greater. 2 touchdowns, the sacks. I think he's just really been an impactful player. So I would put him slightly ahead of PS2.
TD, talking about the running back position, what are their options here? Should they look in the free agent market? Should they bring in some guys to work out to try to give this room a boost in the ground game, give a little bit more help to this offense? What are the options do you think they should explore here? Because you're figuring that you're going to have some important, meaningful games coming up. You need more from this running game. What are their options here?
Stoke, you've been around this game a long time. I've just never seen a run game this far in the season transform from where it is now and try to go find somebody off the streets to make it better. It's kind of where it is. So it's either you have to force feed this thing, and I don't know, man. I watch it and I just don't see where they can get better at this stage. And so this is probably more of a project over the off season. How do we get this thing better in the off season? Bringing in free agents, drafting a running back. But as of right now, I'm not sure how you improve this late in the season.
Okay.
Hey, real quick.
Mark.
I just got real quick. When you look at it, is it scheme? Is it O-line? Is it running back? Like, if you could put your finger on it, is it any one thing? Is it like what's most to blame?
Yeah, this thing I was looking at that, And this might just sound like one of those cop-out answers, but it really is a combination, man. You watch some of the plays, and the backs are running, instead of running downhill, they're running lateral. I'm not a big fan of that. And then you see some plays where the blocking is theirs, and they're not getting yards. They're not making anything extra than what's being blocked. And then you see some plays where the blocking's not there, and they're still not making anything out of that. So I've always had this philosophy, and man, it's like the better they block, the harder I ran. The harder I ran, the better they blocked. And it's just, I think, it's a running back's position is dependent on some blocking. But at some point, I think, the back has to be, it just has to be a different dude back there. He's got to be a one that can make up for something that's not blocked if the scheme is not good. And those things pop off. We recognize it as viewers when we watch a game. Even though the blocking may not be there, we might say, hey, man, that back is good because he's doing things. He's taking that 2-yard run and making it 4. He's taking that hit in the backfield and he's breaking a tackle and he's giving you at least positive yards, or he's not giving you negative yards. Like those type of things. And then you see the explosive plays where we have nobody that I've seen that seems to can break the long 40-yard run. Physically, I know Estime. He seems, he's a fast. Nice Gilio. He's got the quickness. He's a small guy, but we just don't have a back there with all of those attributes and those combination of all of that who can really just be able to put the game on their shoulders and carry it. We don't have that.
All right, great stuff, TD. As always, love it, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. Go Rams.
Terrell Davis, our Hall of Famer, our Rambassador.